Hi, I'm Vanessa Frank, and welcome to Be My Guest. Be My Guest is a space where I sit down with extraordinary people I've met along the way, visionaries, creators, and resilient souls, each with a story that deserves to be heard. These conversations are real, they're raw, and meant to inspire. So settle in. Be my guest. Hi, this is Vanessa Frank, and today we have a very special guest. I'm here with Mendy Dechter from Friendship Circle, which is an organization that is close to my heart that I really, really love. And thank you for coming.
It's an honor. Thank you, Vanessa.
I wanted to get to know you a little bit. Who is behind this organization? How did it start? You always grew up religious, obviously, and you went to a yeshiva and you're a rabbi. So how did Friendship Circle started? How did it all?
Good question. I grew up in New York, in Brooklyn, in the Chabad circle, which is Crown Heights,
Crown
a
Heights.
specific area.
Yeah.
And I really grew up, I was lucky. I grew up in a time that my father used to take me very often to see the Rebbe. So every Shabbos,
Wow.
it was, we came home from synagogue, ate quickly, and then used to go and listen to his talks. Occasionally on Sundays, we had school, but we used to take off once in a while and get dollars from the Rebbe. So I grew up as a Chabad Chassid, a follower of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and really inspired by his message of spreading light to the world. And since I was a child, I felt like that was my mission, and that's really what I wanted to do. So fast forward, growing up, going through the system, you would say, eventually going around the world, Chabad, we travel a lot, and being exposed. Spent a year in Singapore, which was an incredible experience with the Jewish community there.
So you open a Chabad over there, or
No,
no?
so there's like a student exchange program. So when you finish the regular yeshiva, so for 1 year, they send you across the world. You don't know where you're going to get sent.
Right.
It's kind of like a roll of the dice. And they sent me to Singapore, which was the complete other end of the world in every sense of the way. And I was exposed to a lot. It was a Sephardic Jewish community, mainly Iraqi Jews. And it was really exciting. It was hard, but really exciting. And it really reaffirmed my interest in really wanting to work with the community. So we get married, living in New York.
How old were you?
I was 24, I think, when I got married.
Okay.
Had 2 children, and in New York, and looking how I could be impactful into the world. And back in the day, the Rebbe used to choose where you were going. But at this point, obviously, the Rebbe passed away. And so really everyone in the Chabad movement, you kind of have to find your own space where you want to make an impact. And I don't know what originally called me, but we had family living in Florida, and I have relatives that run the same Friendship Circle organization in other cities, and it appealed to me, and from different angles. And I found that Friendship Circle specifically is an organization that you're working with individuals with disabilities, you're working with volunteers, so neurotypical teenagers, and each one is a world in and of its own of how we're helping them. And then at the same time, you're helping the community. You're bringing them into this greater community. So I felt like I had this amazing opportunity to bring this organization to Miami. It really didn't exist here. And to be able to offer an impact that was very different than other organizations out there and other synagogues. There's plenty of synagogues and there's plenty of shuls. I felt like this had a specific and unique calling to me of making an impact in the community.
And you're definitely are.
Thank you. With your help.
What is all about a Friendship Circle?
So Friendship Circle takes children and adults with autism or any sort of disability. And we found that one of the biggest struggles that they have is a social component.
Right.
So let's walk you through the process of, let's say, a 15-year-old with autism. He goes to school. He comes home. He has often therapy to help him navigate this world. But some of the biggest struggles that they have is being able to make friends. And it's a natural human necessity to have that social engagement. And we all need friends. And for a child with autism, he's going through this process of being in school and going to therapy and then coming home and having zero social engagement. So what we do is we pair them up with the neurotypical teenager who also needs friends and create this relationship in a contained environment where we're connecting our youth, our teenagers, to individuals with disabilities to be able to be friends. And that plays itself out in Sunday program, in after school programming. Tonight I'm having a barbecue for our adults with disabilities. We're creating a culture and a community for them to be accepted and to be a part of. And as the years have progressed, I've watched it blossom into a community, and these are their friends. And even beyond our organization, they hang out with each other, they celebrate their birthdays together, they'll watch the Super Bowl together. And to me, it's like the greatest sense of accomplishment that it's growing beyond me. It's not about where we started this container. And at this point, it's the relationships are developing beyond that. And there's a major component which only later in years did I really see the impact on the volunteer side. As having teenage children of my own and living in Miami, and we're blessed here, but to give our children the unique opportunity to be able to give of themselves in a tangible way is so important for them. They're sucked into technology. They're sucked into this physical world. So to be able to spend a Sunday morning where with their phones are put aside and they're working with a child with Down syndrome or autism and just playing sports with them, doing arts and crafts, or going to a sports event with them, just doing fun activities that they would do with their regular friends, but now including someone that has a disability, hopefully it makes an impact. And we've seen it changes them. It makes them more sensitive, more empathetic, and changes them as a human being.
Because when you're a kid or a teenager, it's all about you. And start, teaching them that.
We're living in an iPhone, an I-centered society.
Right.
And so to be able to take that out and open up their eyes to those that look different than them and behave different than them. And I think in the world in general, there's so much hate and there's so much anger and there's so much resentment and there's so much unresolved stuff that, one of the main messages that the Rebbe always said is that how do we dispel darkness is really through lighting a candle. And those small little matches of light have the ability to ignite the room. And I think all of us, it's incumbent upon society, is that we teach our youth from when they're young to be healthy, giving, loving human beings. And hopefully long term, we'll see the effect, the shift of a more inclusive society that's more accepting of others that may look and behave different than them.
When did you create it? What year was?
So it's a 2009, 15 years.
How has it been? Like, I'm sure you've had a lot of challenges and, ups and downs. And
It's like a roller coaster. It's like the real estate market. It's funny because I measure it so much, not running a nonprofit is so intertwined with what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And I remember when I came, it was 2009. It was right after the crash of 2008. And the head rabbi here he's a very special rabbi, but at this point he's almost 90 years old, and he didn't understand this concept, but he understood that it's necessary and needed, and kind of gave us the blessing to do it. But he was worried. He's like, how are you going to be able to survive? The market everything crashed here.
Right.
So it's been a roller coaster, but it's been to see the growth of starting this with myself and my wife to having 6 full-time employees working with us and programs going on, multiple programs going on every single day. Tonight we have a barbecue for the adult males, and then we have a challah bake for the women. And so we have in different parts of Miami-Dade County. So it's really grown in an incredible way, and we're grateful for the growth.
Thank God. Yeah, that's great. And on the personal level, I know you have how many kids now?
I have 5 children.
And planning to have more?
They're a handful. I'm blessed. It's but I'm in my me and my wife, we're in our 40s already. So I really having children I think is the greatest blessing in the world. And
yes, I believe so as well.
and it's all intertwined. Our work life and our family life, our marriage, they're all mirrors to ourselves on the work that we need to do. And I would say having children of my own and watching the process of them going through childhood into adolescence and teenagehood into adulthood has been a reflection to myself of how to be a better person and how to shift the organization as well. So like really everything is interconnected of how, okay, now things that I understood one way when I was a 26-year-old young man with 2 or 3 children, all of a sudden to now having teenagers, realizing that the needs of the community are different and how we present ourselves to the community as well.
Right. How do you find your balance? You are very spiritual and have all that very stable.
So I'll stop you there for a moment because I wish that was the case. That
So you see, you always think, right? Like
right, you look at it as
you
from the
look at it
outside
from outside.
as a rabbi, and I'm sure everything.
Exactly, you have it all figured out. But I was reading a book from Rabbi Nachman, and I understand that once you start really, and it happens to me, when you want to go deeper and deeper and deeper, more spiritual, is where more things are gonna come in the way, and more challenges come because
Right.
it's not easy. But it's all for always to keep elevating. But
So right, it's to your point. I think I am blessed that I grew up with spirituality and with a lot of the books and the works and almost the kind of the roadmap to learning the Tanya every single day and learning spiritual Hasidic works. It really helps. There's no question. At the same time, we live in a modern society where we need to find whatever tools we could to optimize ourselves in our life, which means being the best parent that we can be, being the best spouse we can be, and being the best person work-wise, presenting to the world.
yeah.
Exactly. So over the last bunch of years, I love trying new things and I'm open to anything. And so over the last 14, 15 years, I go everyday cycling. The chemicals shift. And the Rambam, Maimonides, hundreds of years ago, brought down in his work the importance of doing daily exercise and what it does for you.
It's so good.
And the shift that it does to your brain and
It
how you
really
operate
does.
differently the
Yeah.
entire day. And to be able to hold yourself in calm demeanor through doing physical exercise is a clear health benefit and helps you be a better person. And back to the spirituality, you can't be spiritual unless you're taking care of yourself physically. So they go hand in hand.
Right.
Sometimes even in the spiritual, in the Jewish world, right, we get carried away where we're absorbed in just a tech space, which is super important. And it's the guiding post and the roadmap of how to live. But at the same time, we all need the tools to be able to be healthy emotionally, physically. And then when you have a healthy connection with yourself, only then can you have a healthy connection with God. It's almost the other way around. So like, and I think it's not really, in our circles growing up, it wasn't really explained. We were really focused on the spiritual, which is, again, I'm grateful for that. But going to therapy, having someone to talk to, being able to process your feelings, learning how to be the best parent you can be. I find all the tricks I can get. Eating well, exercising. I do the cold plunge
You do?
every
I
morning.
haven't done it yet.
It's amazing.
I
It's
have
amazing.
to try it. Yeah.
Have one in my backyard is one of the best
Wow.
investments I could have done. I love it. And it's interesting, in our culture, there's a concept of going to like a ritual bath. And, the Chabad movement originated in Russia. And in Russia, it's freezing most of the year.
Yeah.
And they didn't really have water heaters like we had today. So it was very much part of the culture of jumping into like cold rivers or like freezing literally in the ice to purify yourself. And I always thought that was, I mean, it's amazing, incredible, but there's nothing that I would never do that. Like jumping into ice.
That's what my husband says.
Why would I do that? Why would I subject myself to that?
Right.
But
how did you try it? Why did you try it?
It's become, in the fitness world, it's becoming more of a thing, in the health, in the health world as well. And the benefits are incredible of resetting your brain, learning how to regulate your breath. I go in there and I almost meditate, looking at the trees, and if I have obstacles that I feel like I need to work through, I do it then. And I come back, my day is different.
Wow. You do it in the morning?
I do it in the morning.
Like after your ride?
After my ride, even if I don't ride, like sometimes it's more. Monday was like the most important day for me to plunge. The weekend with our family, and then it's hard getting back in that routine, and we need a
Especially
reset.
after Shabbat, right?
It's hard. It's like you're disconnected, and it's a gift. It's the greatest gift. You know, I wish our children understood, and I think today more than ever, it's so easy to explain the gift of the Sabbath, of Shabbat.
It's such a gift.
Turning off your phone.
I love it.
And there's nothing like it. There's nothing like a higher source that could, I tried being that higher source during the week with my child, and it doesn't work. I'm being able to turn off your device for 24 hours and being present at a Shabbat meal, connecting with each other like we're connecting now, that most of the time doesn't happen during the week. We're so fast paced.
I think it's the best gift. I really do. And tell me something. I know that you have experienced also with other medicine, let's go. So I understand you're very into ayahuasca and what it's done for you. And I find that very interesting, I was born in Peru, so I've heard about it a lot. I haven't done it yet. But I remember in our conversation, you mentioned that you do it regularly and that has helped you tremendously.
For sure. I would say just plant-based medicine as a more broad term, because there's different. It goes back to healing, and
Right.
God created medicines and tools in the world for us to heal, and I would say it's been really helpful and impactful in all aspects of my life. It really started probably with my personal life, with realizing that I'm looking to be a better parent, a more engaged parent. I want to come home. I want to look forward to coming home and spending time with my children and truly being present with my children. And what I found with what plant-based medicine, what it really does is we spoke about ego before.
Yes.
And how our ego, if you want to translate it differently, is really our life story, our narrative that we've told ourselves. And it dictates our life.
Absolutely.
It holds us back in so many ways from reaching our maximum potential.
100%.
So there's plant medicine is only one way of doing this. There's meditation,
Right.
there's breath work. They're really all the same thing, which is suspending the ego, suspending our narrative, and really having a unobstructive bird's eye view of ourself, and helping to process and confronting head on past trauma or things from our past, and then letting go. And by letting go, we're able to move forward. And we don't realize how much of our, either it's generational stuff that gets passed down through our parents or grandparents.
A lot of it.
As Jews, we have had a very traumatic history.
Right.
And growing up as a grandchild of Holocaust survivors, or
I was going to ask you that, yeah.
on my father's side, my grandmother escaped Nazi Germany and came, she's still alive, thankfully, in her 90s.
Wow.
But there was a lot of unprocessed stuff.
Yeah.
And then on my mother's side, from Soviet Russia, I grew up, my grandparents lived upstairs from us. And they came in 1953 to the United States. Russian immigrants. We spoke in Yiddish to each other, so I speak fluent Yiddish. And so much of their upbringing and of their difficult childhood and European life that existed during that time period gets passed down generationally, both in the DNA and the culture of that. And so if we want to move forward and we want to heal from that, we need to process that, and we can't just bury things away. And then with our own childhood, even if it's a normal, typical childhood, but we're your place in your family, and your childhood, whatever things that came up, they hold a grip on our growth and our being able to move forward in life. So I found on many, many levels of the plant medicine it's not for everyone, but it's been really helpful to be able to process past things and to be able to move forward and maximize and live a more optimized life.
I feel like in certain way also, for example, when you keep kosher, it's all about feeding the soul and not the ego. That's my kind of interpretation from it. And in every moment, I mean, I feel like, there is certain foods that feeds your soul, and certain food feeds the ego. Even when you come to your kitchen and you are thinking about, it's not about you wanting to grab this plate and put this thing on the plate and eat it to have enjoyment. It's about, you have to think first. Wait, this dish is for meat. I'm going to use this fork. You are constantly bringing godly into the moment, right? So it's you're lowering the ego, and I think that, don't you think?
100%. I think I've never thought of it like that probably because I grew
Because
up.
you grew up like it.
So that's kosher is the only way
Right,
me.
the only way.
And even living in Miami, we're so blessed that right down the block on
Right.
Harding Avenue, you have a million five-star kosher restaurants. But it's true. That's really objective of godliness, of our purpose in this world.
Right.
Why are we living here? And actually, sometimes, very often in plant-based medicine, you're able to really ask yourself, understand, like, we're so caught up in the rat race, we forget about the bigger picture of what's the impact that I could have in life? Why am I here?
Right.
What change I can do?
Yeah.
But really, we're here, every single one of us, in whatever circle we're at, is to bring God and spirituality and make a difference in this world. So small acts, like you're saying, of making a blessing on food. So instead of just eating the food, but you're actually pausing for a moment and you're thanking God for delivering this food. Or we separate milk and meat. All those things are small acts of bringing a higher level of consciousness to you. I would say that the ego is very deceitful and conniving and sneaky. And doing all these things, it still finds its way of controlling us and controlling how we live our life. And, back to the balance of spirituality and medicine and therapy and all these other tools that we use in life, you can read in the book how anger is one of the worst forms of compared to idol worship.
Yeah, I've been reading that.
And talking evil, or even talking about other people.
Yeah.
And it goes on and on. But when we live life and we're human beings and we're hurt and we're all hurt human beings, it's very difficult to actually implement these subtle, small things in our life. So how do you go about someone triggers you, let's say you're in real estate. It's hard because you're constantly, and even as a rabbi, we're all challenged every single day with small situations where, oh, I should have got that listing. I can't believe I didn't get it. Oh, that realtor, I can't believe he's, and we're challenged to really check in ourselves. Why are we responding like that? And we're going to win some, we're going to lose some, but we need as many tools as we could to regulate ourselves, to learn the skills, so that then we can implement what we're learning in the spiritual books.
Right.
So it's all there. It is in the spiritual books, but we need the tools.
And don't you see that every time you like, okay, I'm gonna really work on this. I want to change this of my behavior or my reaction, let's say. Boom, 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 more like test.
It's testing us. And it's like, so when we start developing that skill and we're making those shifts, so we're going to be confronted again and again and again.
Yeah.
And then it's on us to see if we really can make that change and to make that shift. But like you quoted Rabbi Nachman before, as we go up higher in this game, it's gonna get it doesn't get easier.
No, it's harder.
So sometimes I wake up, I'm like, oh my God, it's spending all these years, all this time, all this effort, and I would think I'd be in a much better place. Why is it so difficult? Why is it so challenging? Because it's like life is like a game, and we're going on level and level where the levels are going up. So things that weren't challenges before, it wasn't because it wasn't a challenge before, because we were on such a lower level of consciousness that it wasn't really an issue.
Right.
So as you start upping your level of consciousness, of spirituality, all of a sudden things are going to start to re-emerge that weren't issues before, because you're in a higher spiritual state and you're on a higher level and you're more refined, and there are higher levels of work that needs to happen to you. So until the day we die, this is the work that we have. Hashem has his ways and we'll never know.
I also saw a comment the other day that said something that really made me think. And it was that right now what we're seeing in the world and all the wars and all the bad things happening, we can see it also in our daily life with conflicts with our own family. So we need to start kind of working our inner circles in order for the world to get better. But we need to start with the relationships that we have close. Maybe we stop talking to this one because we don't think the same. You voted for this, I voted for that. Oh, I can't, I cancel you, and this and that. And we have relationships that we're just just canceling in our lives, instead of uniting and accepting. And that was an analogy that this person said. And then he also said, even if you say, you know what, this is not for me, I can't deal with anybody, I'm just gonna move to an island and I'm gonna live by myself, and then all those fights are gonna be in your head.
Right, it's not the purpose of the world. But that almost brings us full circle of let's say friendship circle in this organization. To me, we look at this crazy world and we look at all the evil that's going on. The only way, we could scream on social media, and it's important. There's a lot of important work, advocacy, and making statements to the world, and of course Israel fighting back. But at the same time, it's on a macro level. On a micro level, the best way to combat this darkness is every one of us individually trying to be a better person. And so like when we do kindness to others, and we're working with a child with a disability, finding ways to be nicer to people that are closest to you,
Right.
and then kind of that ripple effect is going to change the world.
100%.
One person at a time.
100%.
One light at a time.
100%. In fact, when I started studying Torah with Rabbi Asher, and he's been incredible. Actually, he's the one that connected us, because when I started studying the concept of tzedakah, which is so powerful. So, giving 10% of what you earn, and it's like it has to be to the dot. I mean, it's like I have my Google sheet. I said, okay, but I also know that I have to do my due diligence and make sure it goes to the right hands, because that's also something that we're supposed to do. And so he gave me a list of organizations, and one of them was yours. So I just started donating, and then Mendy contacted me once, and he called me. He's like, hey, I want to know who you are. And that's how the whole relationship started. And I'm so thankful, because I consider you a friend. You're in my circle now. I've been part of a couple of events with your organization, and I did feel the energy of those kids and young adults that were there with disability. And I never had the opportunity to be close to, like, in my family, I never had a family member that has a disability or anything. So it was never, common to me. So I was kind of shy, but it was so special. I feel like it's such a gift to be close to these human beings, because they're so godly in some way. They're in their spectrum, and I would love to be inside that world for a minute, because it seems to be so beautiful, and so inspiring, and I really loving. So for that, I thank you. It was very special.
Pure.
It's pure. That's a word. It is
Pure.
pure. Yes.
And you see that when there's no verbal communication. And it's like the Rebbe once told a father of a boy with autism, and he told him that your son is more connected to God. Um, I'm honored that we were able to connect and meet. And I was surprised on my end. I was getting these random donations coming in. I wish it happened more often. So I'm like, who is this special person that's just out of the blue consistently, you know, giving of themselves? And like you said, giving 10% is such an incredible opportunity. And it's like I've seen firsthand that the more we give, the more we get.
It's true.
So it's like a best investment that you can do.
100%.
It's almost like that 10% doesn't belong to us. Like God is
No,
entrusting us.
it doesn't belong to us, right? We're like partners.
Exactly.
So tell me something. If you have to give like one piece of advice to the audience, what would it be?
It comes back to, I think, in order as a rabbi, and people look at me, okay, you're a rabbi. I think it's super critical and important to connect to God. With that being said, the only way that you can connect to God is if you really, really connect with yourself. So it's inside. So then that will help so much. The world would be so much of a better place if people would start doing this inner work on themselves. And then the output would be amazing. Like, once people start delving into themselves and processing, getting rid of the anger and the hate, the world will be a much, much better place. And they'll start doing more acts of goodness and kindness. We can accomplish so much. So it's really.
Do you think that we all came to this world to be believers?
I almost look at this world as like a video game. Like imagine that. Like there's this game, and there's this objective of this game. What's this game? That you have to accomplish something. Like Mario or one of these arcade games. So the game that me and you and everyone else here has in this world is that we have to go from level to level, trying to get level, and we have to get points, and we have to do things. So sometimes we get so caught up in the rat race of just making money and just like, running, and we have to take a pause and like, what do we accomplish? What are we doing here? Where are we going? And having children at this critical age, it's like, wait a minute, like, how many more years am I going to have children in my home, under my roof, with this beautiful responsibility? It's an incredible time, and yet we're so caught up. We're not living in the moment. So we're all here for a purpose. Are we here? Listen, we're all here to connect to God, be spiritual. Not everyone's going to end up doing it, but they're just not playing the game right. But the game is to upgrade ourselves, to be more in tune with ourselves, to connect ourselves spiritually, because this is all a spiritual world.
Right. I mean, don't you think that's the ego, though? The one that tells you, like, if people doesn't really connect or believes, it's the ego.
For sure. So like ego is a tricky word, because I think people think of ego as like, arrogance or like,
right.
But essentially ego is all the walls that are protectors.
Right. Protectors. Exactly.
Our protectors. So
yes.
Yeah, that's the ego. That's our protectors. It's like, people think they need to make a lot of money and then they're going to be safe. It's a safety thing. Or people behaving in certain ways. It's their life narrative. It's their protectors that kept them safe from when they were children, and they're taking that all the way into adulthood. And they have to realize that maybe it was necessary for them to have these protectors and this safety net around them while they were growing up for whatever their needs of their childhood was. But in this new world of being in the adult world, it's not necessary. It doesn't serve them anymore. It's hurting them. And to live a more spiritual and connected life, the only way to do it is by shedding this ego, this protector, right. And then you could really live a wholesome and more connected life.
Right. Thank you so much.
It's an honor.
Thank you for coming, Mendy.
Thank you.
It's wonderful. And I wish that all the goals that you have put for the organization for the next year and forward just multiply, and that only good news come, and that everything you want will come through.
I mean, and I would only wish that people would be as generous and kind as you. And you're really an ambassador to the world. And what you're doing is incredible. And you're going, you're a busy realtor, thank God, selling beautiful homes. And yet you're taking the time and effort and energy to give back to the community. So that's very commendable.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.